Welcome to the Civic Pulse with David Bonior and Brian Brady. This is our year-end show that we're doing. We're going to analyze the branches of government and the levers of government and also make predictions about 2026. David, are you ready for the big year-end show?
Don't know if I'm ready, but I'm going to give it a good try.
Good to see you today on New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year's Eve, yeah. And good wishes to you and your family in the new year.
You as well. You as well. I wish you were still in Congress as a whip in the majority party right now. I think we'd be doing a lot better.
Well, that's what I'm going to talk about, and you're going to talk about. We're going to see how the Congress may fare this year. Let's make some predictions on that a little later.
Let's start with that branch of government. So,
all right, why not?
We've had Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, and we've had John Thune as the majority leader, and the Democrats have been a noisy but sort of how would you describe Congress in 2025?
Well, it's been a failure, and it's been a failure because the people in charge, the Republicans, first of all, generally don't want to do anything. That's a basic tenet of Republicanism. Less government, the better off we are. So they don't, they're into any activism and trying to solve housing or the environmental questions we have, or being able to afford groceries and other essential items if you're a family. So they're not into that. That's not. They've never have been into it, with one exception. Maybe over 120 years ago during the Progressive era, when we had Teddy Roosevelt and some of those folks, they were into, and then we had a progressive Congress. They were into getting things done because things had gotten so out of hand. But right now, it's just a failed Congress. I mean, with their advertising as their big success, this one big, they say beautiful, I say ugly bill that they passed. Yeah. And they've destroyed the economy and the lives of many working men and women across this country. It's just been horrific. And plus what they've done in terms of privatization of thought and, getting into not only your bedroom, but every place else. It just has not been a good Congress.
Yeah, in some ways, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, ironically, has become almost the chief critic of Mike Johnson these days, right? She's
in the news a lot, and she's pretty good at getting news. And then, she's not happy with either Trump or Johnson, and Johnson is not producing, and he's got a very small majority, a couple of votes, so they can't really do a lot because they don't have the votes to get it done. He can't keep the unity in his party, which is hard to do in any day. But if you've got a 2-vote margin, you're not going to get much done.
Yeah, her critique was that there's no difference. That he takes his orders 100% from the administration. That's all.
He always has, and he's just tried to stay with Trump. And Thune, I don't know that much about. I know him because I was served with him, and we played a lot of basketball together in the late afternoons when we were working late down in the gym. We had games, and he's a very nice person, and he's smart, and he's a little bit more. He's certainly more independent from the White House than the Speaker is in the House. Yeah. But I think he's still learning the process. Although he was in the leadership under McConnell before, in a position below him, obviously. But he's still learning, I think, and has some potential if he gets liberated from Trump to maybe actually become a decent minority leader as opposed to majority.
Yeah. No, people when I saw some, the insider analysis of who people respected and thought were the most effective leaders. And Thune was at the top of that.
Was he?
Johnson was at the bottom. With Schumer and Jeffries somewhere in the middle there, right? So let's jump to the Democrats here. How, they don't control any, they don't have any majorities, but what would you grade? So what would you grade their resistance in Congress?
Well, there's a certain number of them have spoken out, and
Mhm.
you got to give, when things are tough, that's when especially you need people's voices and their actions. So I would say, and I've talked about Bernie Sanders before on the show in terms of I'm mostly positive because I like what he stands for.
Yeah.
I don't particularly care for Bernie, but I think he's an amazing person.
Yeah.
And in the sense that he was the person after this last defeat, this national election in which Trump defeated our candidate, the vice president. I was just very impressed with what he and oh gosh, OA.
What?
The woman who's worked, where a young woman who's
AOC, yeah.
AOC. I always get her initials mixed up. AOC. I mean, they went out and they got the Democrats in the country going again, and they were very instrumental in the Kings no Kings situation, in which we've had, we had 2 rallies already in the country. We had one with 3 million, the last one with 7 million. Now they're aiming for another one with 11 million people showing up and demonstrating. And Bernie had huge crowds. In my old district, he came in Macomb County and, he packed the place, 20,000-30,000 people. And that's happening. Places he went to, other places around the country. So I give her AOC and Sanders a lot of credit for that. So that then there's other people that follow them or are part of that world that are speaking up. And Ro Khanna.
Ro Khanna, we got to give Ro Khanna a shout out here.
Ro Khanna has been very, very active, and he wants to run for president, so you would expect that. But you need to do that. If you want to be considered a serious candidate by the Democrats, you have to speak out. And there's a number of them that have started to do that. So I would say, in terms of the Democrats in the Congress, and I think Jeffries is learning. I still have a lot of hope for him. I like him personally.
Yeah.
And I think he has the ability to become a good leader. We'll see what happens if they get the majority back in 10 months. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Senator Murphy, Senator Van Hollen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Thank you for doing that, because those two particularly, Murphy and Van Hollen, have been fabulous. They've been everywhere. They're not afraid, and they're smart, and they're just really good people. They would be really good candidates for the presidency, both of them.
Yeah, I think they'd be excellent. And, to me, you have to be a media organizer now in today's day and age. You have to be able to get eyeballs.
Yeah.
And so you have to embrace that effort, and I think Bernie and AOC are kind of great at doing both the grassroots organizing and also the media organizing. Especially AOC is incredibly savvy at the media organizing, and you don't get Mamdani without AOC.
That's right. And we'll see how he does. I mean, it seems like he's been in office already for 6 months, but he hasn't even taken office yet. But he's doing lots of good things, getting prepared, getting the people that he wants in the right positions, and speaking out. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he works.
2026 prediction on Congress. Let's make a prediction on whatever you want, but I think the midterms is really where we should.
Well, at the midterms, I mean, if we just had an election in November, and it wasn't as large as the national midterms, but it was a good slice of it. Let's call it the quarterly elections, and we did very well. We did well everywhere, in every position, not only the higher positions for governor and Congress, but also some of the congressional districts that were vacant. But we also did very well in other positions at the county level, at the community level, at township level, city level. And so I'm optimistic in some sense. I mean, I look at Trump's numbers are terrible, but Trump is a magician in some senses, and you never can count him out.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. But my sense is that we'll get the House back, and there's a lot of people that are retiring now too.
I think we'll get the House and the Senate.
You think the Senate too?
I think we're even gonna get the Senate, and I think there's going to be a run on Schumer. I don't know if he'll survive till.
I'm not sure he will either, but that's a whole different game, as you know. I call it a game. I shouldn't, because it's serious business, but the in-house workings of who's a leader and who isn't rests on a lot of different things that the general public may not be even aware of, and so it's real building relationships.
Yeah,
and I don't know how strong his relationship is with his caucus, although I know that there's a lot of disenchantment over the way he performed this last year.
Yeah, I think he's going to have trouble holding on there. So we'll save the executive branch for last. Let's take the judicial branch next here.
Well, you go first there, because I don't follow the judicial that much, but it's important. So you take it.
I mean, I think when you look at the judicial branch has done a pretty decent job below the Supreme Court of standing up to this fascistic lean that we're getting. Lean is the wrong word. March that they're trying to. So you've seen the lower courts do a pretty good job of starting to curtail the ICE thug tactics.
Right.
Various, the Abrego, the crazy Abrego suit, which I think just is emblematic of the whole judicial process. But then it gets to the Supreme Court in about 85% of the time, right? The Supreme Court is siding with the administration. It's interesting to me to watch like the political dance John Roberts is doing, because as you and I know, the Supreme Court doesn't have an army. So in the end, like I think he probably would like to oppose him slightly more, but he's also knows his political power is when you don't have your own army, you have a little less political power.
No, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So or your own administration, you don't even have your own bureaucrats necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think the big break will come on tariffs, that the Supreme Court will continue to mostly obey Trump on a lot of stuff, but they'll break on tariffs.
I think that's right. And I think the tariff issue has become really significant throughout the country in different communities, as well as different groups. It's just pounding, and it's hurting the economy for working people particularly. I mean, people at the top are doing fine. I was just watching some shows on how the economy did. And if you're at the top, 5%, you're doing really well in this country. And if you're not, you're either holding their line or you're struggling. And there's a lot of people that are struggling. Yes. And there's a lot of fear out there. So, the tariffs are being looked at as a place where that can be that's caused a lot of this uncertainty and problems for people, but it's also a place where we can maybe correct it, hopefully. Trump is just in love with them, and they have their place in certain times, but he didn't have really a lot of thought that went into this. I mean, what he did to Canada is outrageous. Canada is one of the leading industrial countries in the world. Yeah. And he talked about giving some of it to taking parts of it and having become part of the United States. He just belittled the nation. Yeah. And as a result of that, their visitations, Canadians to the U.S., is down like 25%, which is huge. There's no country that even comes close to that. Yeah, travel here is down. Yeah. In most countries, maybe 7, 8, 9%, 6%. Some countries in Europe even, but in Canada, it's 25%, which is huge. And so as a result, they're not buying a lot of American goods. They're not stocking them. They're not taking them in. They're not. the liquor industry, for instance, in Kentucky, I just saw a report on that, is really suffering. They're not getting any business out of Canada. So
Good for
anyway,
Canada. Good for Canada. No, I like their
yeah.
prime minister there. He seems like a solid guy, and I think with the judicial branch, the other big ruling that came down recently, I thought, was the National Guard ruling that they upheld the National Guard couldn't come into Illinois, right, from other states.
Yeah, Illinois, but you guys put up a really good fight on that.
Yeah, I think the governor here has been solid, and so that, to me, the key thing on that is you and I know this president wants to control the ballot box, right? And
right.
He's willing to do anything, including have troops go in and take ballots, right? So that's the most encouraging thing I've seen. Is I've been worried about the midterms. You have the National Guard out, taking the ballots from purple and blue states, right?
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic that we actually might have an honest vote at the midterms.
Well, I hope so, because and the other thing I'm concerned about in terms of the ballots, since we've slid into that a little bit, is I'm concerned about these incursions into the Caribbean and Venezuela as a pretext for eventually going to war.
Yeah.
And when you go to war, you can call martial law into effect. I mean, people see that as a partial realistic cover. Yeah. And I'm worried that they're looking at that to give him another term. So, you get close to the elections in 28, and you've got something going. We got troops in South America, for instance, in Venezuela, or wherever. And he says, no, we're going to call them the martial law so we can clean this up. And then, he cancels the elections for a while. And then the courts would be faced with that question.
And they'll probably rule in our favor, but it'll take months. And you suddenly have the midterms happening in 29. The thing we know about Trump is there's no bottom. That's the one rule of Trump. There is no bottom to this guy. He should never be surprised by how low he'll go, as we know from just our vast experience. Let's pivot to the presidency. So we've done Congress, we've done the judicial branch. This has been, in my analysis, there's actually been the first 6 months with Elon Musk and the last 6 months, right?
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And I felt like it was a fire hose of insanity those first 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
And then these last 5 or 6 months, they're still pressing, but they seem to be getting stuck in. There seems to be more sand in the gears the last 5 months. How would you analyze this first year of move towards, what would you call this, a thugocracy? They're so corrupt. It's almost just like a mafia family running.
Well, it's you can't call it completely an autocracy, because he's using the levers of democracy to get where he wants to be, and he did get there through the election process. So, but it's thugocracy is kleptocracy, is what they use in Russia. Those are terms that you can apply here, because he's got his cronies and he's making hundreds of millions of dollars off of these things he's doing. He's selling, gifts he's receiving from other potentates and leaders around the world. I'm talking Trump here. It's pretty disgusting.
Yes.
The Saudi Arabia connection, because of his relationships and his son-in-law's relationship to them, and this is a guy who killed a journalist here in this country. Yeah. I don't get it.
Selling pardons for. Anyway, they say the Wall Street Journal says the price is $1 to $5 million for a pardon. Yeah.
Yeah. It's thugocracy, at corruption at the highest levels. And I think that corruption piece will bring them down in the next election. and hopefully in 28 as well, but that's a long way off.
That is, it is. Yeah, no, I just in terms of execution of this thugocracy playbook, I have to give, I think it comes out of sort of Steve Bannon's playbook. They do an impressive job of flooding the zone so that they're hard to fight. And they came at, I don't think the Democrats were ready for how fast and furious the 2020.
No, because it was different than 16, right?
Yeah. And the vengeance and putting Russell Vought and Stephen Miller in charge of cracking the whip on a million, just so many areas at once, right? It felt like the Democrats didn't find their.
And he didn't have anybody, the guardrail argument that you got to have somebody in the administration telling you no occasionally. That's gone. There were people like that during his first administration in 16 that were trying to keep the country and him out of trouble, and that partial success, and they didn't get it reelected though.
Yeah,
it lost in 20. So
we don't even talk about the corruption that's probably the most lucrative is on the crypto stuff. They're getting a cut of crypto because people don't understand it. Even you and I don't even.
Right.
But it's a $1 billion plus money that's come to the family there. It's insane. Predictions for 26 on this executive. I have an outrageous prediction, but you go first on your prediction.
So, on any subject, or is just on congressional?
Just where the Trump presidency will go in 26.
Well, it's continuing to go where it's been. That's in the toilet. He's at 36% approval rating. That's not very good. So I think that's where it stays. Because he's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
He's not that. I'm not going to say he's a dumb guy. He's not. He's a crafty guy, but he does not know the basic subjects that he has to deal with. And you would think as a businessman, he would know more regarding tariffs and the interest rates and those kinds of things. But he seems to have I don't know how he operates on in terms of the economy, but it isn't good and it isn't helpful to the average working family in this country or middle-class family. And I would say in foreign policy, he's not going to get a deal on Ukraine. Ukraine's not going to work out. We're not going to have a peace deal on the Ukraine situation. He is in league with Putin.
Yeah.
And he might say a few nasty things against Putin or something along the line, but he feels more comfortable with Putin, I think, that he does with Zelensky or any other Democrats, and then you see that in terms of his relationships with the leaders of NATO and the European Union. So I think foreign policy is going to continue to wobble, and we will. One thing he has done, and I think I will give him some credit for this, because he raised enough hell with the Europeans to get them to start putting more money into their defense of their own countries and the European continent. And before they were very hard to move on that, and they have been moving because their own sovereignty is at stake right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And Ukraine becomes important in all of this is because Ukraine is, as I said this on a show previous, Ukraine, they need Ukraine as much as Ukraine needs the rest of Europe, because Ukraine now is the place where the line has been drawn against Soviet or Russian expansion.
Yeah.
And without the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian sophistication and drones and other things, Europe is in real trouble until they get their money and their weapon systems up and get going. And they started to do that recently. since the president has been yelling about it. So to that extent, I think it's somewhat helpful. But I would say, and since we touched on Ukraine, I would say one might make one comment about that. I just read a piece this morning about the drone industry.
Yeah.
And 80% of the fatalities in this war are results of drones. 80%, which is incredible.
It is incredible. Yeah.
And so the whole thing has changed. And so we're at one point, you needed a large army that you could keep. You don't need that as much anymore. And that's how the Ukrainians have been successful in fighting the Russians. The Russians have lost, there was a BBC report recently that they've lost in the war, killed anywhere between 250,000 and 350,000.
Yeah.
They think the number is Ukrainians about 140,000.
Yeah.
But the Ukrainians have this drone capability and specialty, and they're able to evolve into the next world of where drones are in terms of being still capable of getting the job done. So we'll see. I don't see the peace process happening. I just think there's going to be this incremental gain or loss by each side, because in a drone warfare, the combatants are targets. These drones search you out, and you're hiding basically from them.
Yeah, it's
You're
changed.
not focusing on getting lands as much as you are surviving. And that's what the drone world is turned into in terms of warfare. It just creates both sides to try to survive.
Yeah, I think at this time next year when we do this show, we'll be talking about the end of the Trump presidency, that it'll be imminent. I don't think he gets to 2030. I think he's got there's 4 vulnerabilities here. One is impeachment if the Democrats take over Congress.
Yeah.
I think 2 is his own health. 3 is the Epstein files, and 4 is his lame duck status. Like, to me, Marjorie Taylor Greene is running for president already, right? And you're going to start seeing maybe Tucker Carlson. You'll start to see internal opposition due to the Epstein files, due to the economy. That's going to when it falls, it's going to be a little bit like a house of cards, I think.
I think you're onto it. Yeah, I think you've hit all the points that point to a disastrous last 2 years for him. I don't think you can get him out of office because, I don't think he's going to get impeached. Tried by the Senate and booted. But I think you very well could get him impeached in the House again. But he'll be there, just hanging around. And
he'll be thrashing about because his political power will be waning so much, and so
he'll become more dangerous because he'll be more desperate.
We're already seeing sort of the cornered animal stuff. I see that with Venezuela and things. And from losing the election in 2020, what he does when he's cornered, he'll do basically anything to stay in his power. Let's move real quick. To the press in our civic institutions. I've been disappointed with both. But on the press, we've really come down to we're losing CBS to really centrist right-wing folks, right?
Right.
We've lost, the mainstream press. Where I do see some level for optimism is I think the Democrats are fighting in the non-mainstream press more effectively. How do you see the press?
Well, I think they've yielded to a large extent to Trump in the country. I mean, we've seen that's the Washington Post. That a lot of people have left the Post. A lot of people don't take subscriptions to the Post anymore. It's still a very good paper, but the editorial is, they're always, you can tell they've got their eye on Bezos and writing for him because he's got to survive with Trump, right?
Yeah.
On a lot of different fronts other than the media, businesses that he has. So I'm not really impressed at all with where all of this is going in the press. my preference is the New York Times still does a great job. I mean, they're the leader in terms of what they can produce in terms of journalism. I like The Guardian.
Yeah.
I subscribe to that, and I think they're very solid, and they're not afraid of taking on the president, and they do quite often. And then, actually, I put a list together. We don't have time to do all this now.
Yeah.
Of media people that I really have good feelings about in terms of rankings. So here I put my top 10. You want them real quickly?
Yeah, definitely. Give it to me.
I had rankings of the media top 10: Guardian, New York Times, the PBS, public television, public broadcasting network, The Atlantic, great publication, CNN, the National Catholic Reporter, of which I have a special interest in. It's a paper that I'm on the board of. They do really wonderful works. The Washington Post, CBS 60 Minutes, 60 BS on 2 shows, 60 Minutes and Sunday Morning. Great productions. Firing Line, because I think it's a well-done show. It's conservative, but Nicole Wallace on
NBC.
Now, I guess they call it.
MS
My Disappointing Five, or Fox Network. Washington Post editorial page. Politico. Howard Stern. Bill Maher. Sinclair Broadcasting Group. The Drudge Report. The Washington Times. The Washington Examiner. And CBS Management, per your comment about how they're moving to the center right.
I'll just add a little addendum because I'm more in the number one station in the country right now on media is YouTube. That's where, and I'm a lot more on YouTube than you.
Yeah.
And I'll give a shout out. The number one political stream is a show called Midas Touch, and it's a left anti-Trump run by 2 brothers, the Meiselas brothers. It has 7 million viewers almost a week. So it's one of the more influential shows but you generate, if you're not on YouTube, you don't catch it.
I don't, so I don't even know anything about that, but thanks for telling me. I'll look for it now.
Yeah, I'll send you a little clip. And then I think on magazines, I think the New Republic's been nailing it all year. They've called out Trump, and Michael Tomasky, I don't know how, as you say his name.
That's right. Yeah.
I think his analysis of the media of the GOP winning partly because they mastered all the media elements and reached the young men and really won that demographic hugely in the last election. And now they're starting to lose it again because they mastered where the young men are online, right? So let's one last thing. Civic institutions, these colleges and law firms and other institutions that have folded, it's made me realize the impotence of being a government-sanctioned organization. That you just, Northwestern, my local university, just paid $100 million because they didn't want $1 billion of their research grants cut off, right? So it's just made me realize how weak nonprofits and government-sanctioned institutions are. But on the positive side, it's made me realize how volunteer citizen organizations are really the only thing that safeguard you from a dictator or a takeover of your democracy.
Or a good press. Yeah. And
a good press. Yeah.
And so, but they're key. They're just, they're on the front lines right now, and they've got to make tough decisions, and that are costly. Yeah. And if you're a president of a university and you've got an interest in for instance, a cancer consortium, you're working with other universities and you're close to getting some results on some very deadly diseases, cancer, whatever that's out there, Alzheimer's, and you got the question of whether you're going to pay like Northwestern or some of these other schools or just going to let it go and continue on. It's just they're not easy, so they're in a bind. And I praise those who stand up and are strong, because you have to have solidarity when you're fighting someone like this.
It'll be interesting to watch what Harvard does because they were gonna cave, but now anyway, we'll watch. I think that's a key institution because if they cave in 26, that's not good. The poll numbers give people a little more backbone to stand up to Trump these days.
Right. Yeah.
But I think what's going to save our democracy is actually activists, citizens. A lot of who now semi-retired or retired and are, volunteering time to No Kings movements, Indivisible, other movements.
Yeah.
Anti-immigration movements.
That's key. That's absolutely key. And we've got one coming up. It's probably in the spring. No Kings again.
Yeah.
They're hoping for 11 million people, which is up 4 million from the great success they had with it this last fall. So we'll see what happens. I think, there are other ways to demonstrate your voice other than voting. Voting is important. It's the most important, I think. Yeah. But talking, speaking, demonstrating, those are really key pieces of a democracy as well.
They are, and we got to win some elections this cycle. That's, I think,
we do.
We need to get out on the street. We need to raise our voice, and we need to be donating.
Right. Well, they can work together, and they should organizationally, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, last prediction. We'll close the show on sports prediction. Who is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Your team, the Detroit Lions, are not in the playoffs this year.
No, didn't make it.
Chicago Bears, yes.
But the Bears, big surprise this year. I guess not so much a surprise, but they've exceeded more than most people thought they would advance this year. Good for them.
Coaching matters.
Go Bears.
But it's one of those football years where you can't tell who's going to win.
I can't tell who's going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Patriots were were nowhere, and all of a sudden they're in the top of their division, and then you got the Broncos. Who thought the Broncos would? What are they? 10-2 or something? Or I don't know. No, we've played more games than that, but they're.
They're very good. Yeah,
well, they're very good, and they got a good record, and they'll have a good seeding in the playoffs. So, I think those are two teams to watch for. The Rams, always, they've been good. Although I think didn't they lose? Did they lose to the Bears the other day?
They didn't lose to they did lose to like the Falcons. I think it was
the Falcons. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was good. I didn't watch it, but it was a good game.
So
you can drown yourself.
Hat here. We'll have a bet. Who treats the dinner next?
Okay. What's the bet?
Pick a team.
Pick a team.
Yeah.
Oh God, you go first because I have to refresh myself on.
I'm going to pick Seattle because they're hard to play at.
That's a good pick.
In their dome.
They're really good pick.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to go with. Oh my goodness, I can't think right now. I'll just go with the Patriots.
The Patriots. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's
a young quarterback.
Oh, no. I'll go with Buffalo.
Buffalo. Okay. When we come back in a month, Dave, because we're tending to do these shows monthly now, it'll be a year of the Trump presidency. There's two autopsies. I'm teasing the next show.
Yeah.
There's a center Democratic analysis of why we lost in 24, and then there's a progressive analysis. I want to look at those two together with you.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
I think they're kind of interesting. And then look, to me, our 26 shows have to get really, how do we win in 26 and you won in purple conservative districts for almost 30 years. So I'm going to lean on your ability to win crossover votes there with the progressive agenda. So that's right. My tease for the upcoming year of our shows.
Okay, that'll be fun to do.
All right. We'll say hello to the family. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and Vita and your family and your kids. And we wish you good happiness. And we have to remember, though, let me leave you with this one last thought. And because we deal with a lot of negativism sometimes on the show, because that's feels like what the world is about these days. But underneath all of that, there's a lot of there's still beauty out there.
Oh, yeah.
And finding that beauty and in your, whether it's your family, whether it's in nature, those are things that we have to remember are significant in the lives of people as well. So, let's work together to try to recognize those pieces as we go through all of this.
Yeah, leaning into our communities that really nurture and support.
Yeah, people do so many wonderful things, volunteering and helping, and they come from different political spectrums. So it's not only the progressive left; it's from the right. The conservative movement they do great things with in healthcare and hospitals, and trying to be supportive of their families and communities. So we have to recognize that there's a lot of good that's done out there in the world.
Agree. Amen to that. And let's keep building those out until it takes over our government.
Yeah. Until
All right. Talk to you soon, David. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Peace.